I'm Jill Ragg. Welcome to Excellent Wife in Training. Today we are going to be talking about family traditions. Now you can probably think of some moms you know that are really into traditions and some that aren't. And you may fall on one side or the other. And I'm hoping to encourage you to pursue family traditions and to make them a part of your life. It doesn't have to be a huge part of your life, but definitely a part of your life. And I believe it's really important to have family traditions because they're part of what make your family unique from all others. It's part of the bonding that takes place where family affection and memories and things done together help build the uniqueness of your story and your life. Now, obviously, there's no chapter and verse that says, thou shalt make family traditions. But there's a wisdom principle there. And you know, over and over throughout the Old Testament, traditions were made and things were done year after year and celebrated and done a certain way. And we look to that and we see that they act as reminders. And so if nothing else, the traditions that we form for our kids will remind them of our love for them, of the way we took time to make things special and to make life full of joy. And it doesn't take a ton of money necessarily. Obviously some traditions do, and some take no money at all just to have a tradition of walking around the block together on a certain day of the week. So I hope you won't be discouraged, but you will be encouraged. Now, there's a couple books I want to talk about first. This one is the first one I thought of when I was trying to remember what is said about family traditions and why they're important. And I remember hearing the Hughes at a conference at my church in person talking about the importance of family traditions and how they bond the family together, and also about the importance of taking family vacations, which, interestingly enough, one of my kids said is one of their favorite traditions, that we go on vacation. It's an investment, it takes planning, but to our children, they have these memories of times when they had mom and dad together all day, every day for a certain amount of time. I really appreciate the things that are said by the Hughes in the book Disciplines of a Godly Family. There's another book that I wanted to recommend. I have not actually read it. I don't actually own it, but I've read the reviews and I really want to own it. I just didn't get it ordered before I talked to you. Here, Memory Making Mom. The Memory Making Mom by Jessica Smart. It has some great reviews, some encouragements. There was actually a critique about the book being bad because of how much it talked about faith and the Lord, so that's a good sign. But the Memory Making Mom, she gives ideas from great to small, and all the reviewers say it didn't make them feel bad. It actually spurred them on to want to make memories with their family and to establish traditions. And that another highlight of the book is that it gives ideas for families that may have some brokenness in their past. Children are shared between parents, military families, how to continue traditions when someone in your family has died. So that sounds super encouraging, and I do hope to get this book to even spur myself on in family traditions. So I had some questions come in that I wanted to answer for you guys. So the first question is, how do we handle the holidays when all the time is split between family and in-laws? Our family would be really upset if we didn't come. Well, I do want to encourage you that when it comes to in-laws, things do get sticky. And we need to make sure that we are being the most loving in-laws that we can be, and not making our in-laws our outlaws or preferring our family over our husband's family or vice versa. But even most importantly, we want to make sure that our marriage has followed God's command to come out and be separate and create a new family. And you don't have one of you still fully following your parents and not your spouse. So I don't know if that's the situation here, but obviously you and your husband as a new family need to make the decisions on what is best for your family. And you do need to give attention to both sides of the family as is available. And so good communication between the two of you. Where are we going to go? How long are we going to spend time there? How can we best bless our extended family? How can we be reasonable with our children and maybe the kind of home you're visiting? And you know what? It's hard to make everyone happy. It's pretty near impossible. So you're just going to need to do your best to serve both your parents and his parents in splitting up your time for the holidays. And perhaps every once in a while, it will have to be just your family at home for a certain amount of time without either family establishing your own traditions and your own holiday events. And another question was, how do we celebrate Christmas without our kids becoming greedy or selfish? This is a great question, and I know this mama has a 5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old and a baby, and so there's a couple ideas that I would give you for keeping your kids from greed at Christmas. Now, obviously, Christmas is super exciting. If it wasn't so, then you wouldn't have such great memories of it. But we love Christmas, and part of it is the blessing of gift giving, the giving and receiving. That is a huge joy that makes Christmas unique from most other times of the year other than someone's birthday. Christmas is like everyone's birthday and God's birthday all rolled into one, and so of course the joy is huge. But there's a couple things you can do to keep your kids from being greedy. One is keep focusing on Christ. Bring Advent into as many things as you can. Keep focusing on Jesus each and every day, his birth, different aspects of it, from the shepherds to the angels to Jesus in the manger. I recommend you have a nativity that the kids can play with. We had the little people one. We also had one that was made out of fabric and stuffed. It was a kit, and so the kids could be hands-on with those, and it wasn't the don't touch baby Jesus. Another really important thing is encouraging your children to be givers at Christmas. Involve them in gift giving, help them choose, let them start learning to wrap, help focus them on who are we giving to and why do we give to them, and also thankfulness when they receive from another. Another thing is, if you find your children being greedy and selfish, there's that pouty attitude when all the gifts have been open and they're done and they're struggling. Acknowledge their struggle and then counsel them with their sin. And maybe it's not that day, maybe it's the next day, or maybe it's that evening. You pull them aside and you work through talking to them about their attitude and what it's revealing about their hearts, and just take it as a great opportunity to counsel your child and know that as they get older, they will be less greedy as you're teaching through those opportunities, teaching them to that giving is better than receiving, and just working through that in your whole year-long parenting race that you are running. And then also, I like to encourage parents to not make all the gifts for everyone all the time. It's good for children to learn how to take care of their own belongings. And so to have their own belongings, it means that not all toys are shared by all children. Usually our children, we let them enjoy their own personal toys for a while. And when we noticed certain things were very special, we made them off limits to the other kids, and they were kept in a child's special area, their dresser or their shelf. And other children were not allowed to touch kids' particular specific gifts without permission. And then if we noticed that toys weren't excessively special, they became toys for everyone, and those toys we encouraged them to share with everybody. So that's something I like to encourage moms with, is respecting your things that are very special to your children as their own belongings. It's great to teach our kids to share, but there's also a time where we need to respect other people's personal property, and that is also important to teach your children. Another question is, what makes a worthwhile tradition versus just another thing to do? This is a great question, and this is where a lot of moms get bogged down, like, oh, I just can't add another tradition. It'll be one more thing to do, and you feel like you become a slave. There's a whip over your back to do certain traditions. And I would say the main difference between a tradition that is worthwhile and a tradition that's just another thing to do, oftentimes is just our attitude about it. How do we feel about the tradition? Do we know why we're doing it? And you know what? Some of our traditions came because the children took such joy in something that we decided to do it over and over again. And so that is for sure an area where I have to die to self and serve my kids, that this is really important to them. Other times we would come up with traditions and try to start something and it didn't really work, and so we let those traditions go. We tried one year, wrapping all the books for Christmas and opening them one day at a time, and that was tedious to me and the kids didn't seem to care. So I tried that one year. Maybe we'll start this tradition. It didn't fly, so it was not a tradition. Other families, that works great and they love it and they'll probably do it every year. So what works for one family doesn't always work for another, so be careful not to play the comparison game, because that might take some of the joy out of your traditions as well. So evaluate your own attitude, and that is what mainly is the difference between a worthwhile tradition and one that you're just, it's another busy thing to do. Sometimes it does feel really busy to me to keep some of our traditions. But I remember that a tradition's a tradition. I can't even say it anymore. Tradition is a tradition because we always do it. Now, that doesn't mean every single year. We have some things we love to do for 4th of July, but it depends on a host home or it depends on other people. And so we can't always do everything. There was one year our house was on the market during Advent, and I read them one night of Advent, and after Christmas I was like, honey, I let the kids down. They've missed a whole year of Advent reading. And he's like, I think the kids are gonna be okay. This is the joy of balancing each other out. So keep that in mind, and if something doesn't fly and it just doesn't seem to be working and it's just more work for you, then maybe it's okay to let that tradition go. So there's all kinds of ways that you can try to be consistent with traditions. And this was one of the questions, how am I consistent with traditions? Well, one of the things is you may need to just write it down and remind yourself. You have your calendar, this is what I'm going to be doing in February, and I'm going to have to start planning for my Valentine's traditions 2 weeks ahead. So 1st of February rolls around, you have it on the calendar so that you remember to buy the pink dye for the milk, or make sure you pick up the little mailboxes that you want your kids to give each other Valentine's in. You start sitting down with them and having them write love notes to their siblings, something like that. So writing it down, best way to remember traditions. Another thing, it's not going to take many years of doing something for your kids to remember exactly what you do. Most of our traditions that have prevailed because my children are the ones saying, oh, don't forget to do this. We love when you do this. Oh, are you going to dye the pancakes green on St. Patrick's Day, Mom? Oh, Mom, are you going to give us new special pencils on the first day of school? So they will remind you, and you will know exactly what is important to them. And maybe one year I tried something and I didn't think it was a big deal, and the next year rolls around and the kids are like, oh, Mom, are we going to do that again? That was so fun. So they convey to you oftentimes the traditions that they really love. We have traditions for birthdays, staying up late I wait till they're 5 and then they can stay up as late as they want, and my dad usually stayed up with them. We have decorating traditions for birthdays. The night before their birthday, I have a tradition of praying with them. We have Christmas traditions, food and family. We have vacation traditions, family night traditions, Thanksgiving, May Day. I was taught a tradition in 1st grade of leaving flowers on my mom's doorstep. I still do that. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, fall harvest things. 1st day of school. I'm going to do a whole thing on 1st day of school traditions because that was already also asked. And traditions for ending the school year. So those are some ideas for family traditions and answering the questions that you guys had, and I hope that's helpful. We love traditions, and I've got a little segment on my own family saying what their favorite family traditions are.